My name is John, and on behalf of the Edulastic team, just want to thank you for attending this Edulastic Premium 101 training. And I'm going to be showing some slides and then perhaps show you a live walkthrough of some features. So anyway, if you have questions, feel free to put those questions in for Bill, and I look forward to sharing an overview of Edulastic Premium. So whether you're using the free version or you're just getting started, or whether you're an advanced premium user who's interested in an update and refresher on the features, I think what I'll share with you, I think will be a benefit to everybody. And I'll be kind of talking about all the different and most popular premium features, describing them, and then we'll walk through a report and see what else, what questions come up. So anyway, I'll go ahead and stop my video, but share my screen. Welcome again. And again, this is John from Edulastic, and this is an overview of Edulastic Premium. So for those of you new to Edulastic, maybe you haven't even created an account yet. I saw a few of you that said that. You're in for a treat, I think. Edulastic's really popular, and I think there's three main reasons for that. It's easy to use, it's tech enhanced, and you may have a state test at the end of every year that students are taking that are becoming more and more, those tests are becoming more and more tech enhanced. Well, Edulastic's great. So we have 51 different question types, a combination of both classic question types and tech enhanced question types. You'll see an example of a few of these to the right. And then we provide instant data, and most of the questions in Edulastic are auto-graded. So Teacher Premium provides a lot of additional features, and there's so many, and it's really hard to categorize them. So I have three main sort of buckets that I put them in, for better or for worse. One is flexibility. There's just a lot more flexibility in things that you can do in Edulastic Premium. The second is enhanced security options, and we'll be going into all of those, as well as in-depth reports. And you can see a screenshot to the right, or several screenshots of these different in-depth reports that are available to you, and I'll be talking about all of them, and I'll walk through at least one of them. So let's begin with flexible features, and we'll start with one of the first premium features that was ever built in Edulastic, which was rubric-based scoring. So as you can see in this image, I'm a teacher, and I've created a rubric name, a description, and I'm kind of building out a rubric. I can add ratings, I can add criteria. But rubric-based scoring is available in Edulastic Premium. You can create rubrics, you can clone rubrics and make your own version of them. You can share rubrics, and you can find existing shared rubrics in Edulastic. And the scoring side is easy. You just click on the box to indicate the score that you'd like to do. And there's three rows here. I thought I'd just show two here, but you can see it auto tallies. It's a 9 out of 9 correct. So it's done a lot of the work for you, and you can kind of quickly see what these ratings were. So it's fresh in your mind as you're giving the evaluation. And the next feature, probably the most popular feature, one of the first premium features as well, but one of the most popular reasons why teachers upgrade is for the ability to enable text-to-speech. In this case, I'm in the manage class area, and I've gone over to actions, and I'm enabling text-to-speech, and I can do so for everybody in the class, or individual students, or groups of students if I want. So anyway, text-to-speech read aloud to the student looks like a play button. So they can click the play button, and then they can hear the question read to them. Some of you might want to know what exactly that sounds like. So I have it all queued up here. Here is a question that the student is working on, and we'll play text-to-speech read aloud.
Question. Shade in a circle below to represent the fraction 1/3.
So just a quick sample of what that sounds like, in case you're curious. And so I'll go back to slideshow view. And so the next feature I'd like to talk about is assessment collaboration. So in the free version, if you're creating a test and you want to work on it with another teacher, you'd have to publish it into a shared library, like a shared school library, district library, or public library. The other teacher would have to find that test, make some modifications, republish it into a library. You'd have to find the test again, etc. You can imagine how time consuming that is. Wouldn't it be great if while we're in assessment draft mode, you could just assign and actually invite a co-author to go ahead and edit and duplicate and assign the test on their own. And you can give them access to all actions or limited actions. As a co-author, you would find that in your test library. You could just go to what's been shared with you, and you can find that test has been shared. So then you can have the access to it that the original author has allowed you to have. So this is a huge time savings and great way to collaborate with other teachers. Of course, everyone in this situation needs premium access, but provided that both teachers have it or several teachers have it, you can all work on an assessment together while it's in draft mode. The next feature is the Desmos Calculator. And we have 3 Desmos calculators available in Edulastic. We have a basic calculator, we have a scientific calculator, and finally, we have a graphing calculator. And this is in the advanced options page. When you're creating a test, you can determine which calculator will be student facing and show to the students. The default setting being no calculator, but then of course we can change that to graphing, as is the case in this image. You can also anonymize student names. So let's say you wanted to show some examples of work. Maybe there's an essay, maybe there's something where you're using Scratchpad, which is this note-taking tool in Edulastic. And let's say you wanted to kind of show work, steps of how to answer a problem or essays, but you didn't necessarily want to embarrass anybody when you're showing their work. So in this case, you can see Katori here. She has 9 out of 9 correct. But when we click present, you'll notice something. This isn't Katori anymore. This is somebody else. You can see everyone's been shuffled and anonymized. And I could actually click into the work of Orange Eraser, or better yet, probably click into the question. And I could look at the different responses projected in class, and the students don't need to feel put on the spot. So this is a great feature called the present mode, or the ability to anonymize student work while in Edulastic. The next one is uploading work. This is a relatively new feature, and this feature allows students to just click this upload button, and they can upload an image or a document into Edulastic as part of the answer to their question. So that's a nice flexible enhancement as well. And then we have something called the state-specific test player. So let's say you have this state test that you're really preparing students for, and good luck, because in Edulastic, you're really happy with the fact that there are already state-released test practice items in there in the test library and in the item bank. You're like, this is great. These examples are old practice items that really match the rigor and just the presentation of it. But let's say you want it to even look more like the test, just the look and feel of it. Well, you can change the player skin to match your state test. And then Edulastic, to the extent that we can, we're going to change the colors and the formatting to match the look and feel of your state test to get even that much closer to that end of year test experience. The next feature is called Smart Redirect. For those of you familiar with the free version, you'll know that there is a redirect feature in the free version. But the free version redirect basically will redirect students back into the test. They're basically dropped back into the test at where they just last left it. They can see all their submissions. They don't know what they got right or wrong, but it's kind of like an unsubmit button, so to speak. But in this case, with Smart Redirect, you can determine a lot more of how students are redirected the questions. For example, do I want to redirect all the questions to these students? Maybe just the questions they skipped, or the ones they skipped and got wrong, or skipped partially correct and wrong. So you can determine which questions go to the student. You can also determine the previous attempt, what you want to show. Do you just want to show students what your feedback is? That might be nice, or maybe the student score and the feedback, or maybe the student response and teacher feedback, etc. So this really gives you a lot more control over how you want to redirect work in Edulastic back to the student. And then there are playlists. And of course, we have some built playlists from the content team. It's available for an additional charge. There's Spark Math, Spark ELA, Spark Science, etc. But you can also build your own playlists in Edulastic. So in this case, for example, let's say you created a playlist, basically a sequence of the tests in the order that you usually will assign or administer those quizzes or tests. So you can go ahead and organize that, and you can assign the playlist to students. You can determine which assessments are open to students to take. And then you can also share the playlist with your colleagues too. And then there's multiple attempts for practice. So this is, we've kind of moved from assessment, kind of broadened a little bit into some practice mode type functionality. So here we have, up at the top, we have maximum attempts allowed for the test. So this is the number of times a student can attempt the test. And then you have the number of times a student can answer specific questions. So one thing about Edulastic Premium is there's also something called dynamic parameters, where it provides the opportunity for you to change different variables within questions, especially for math. And it provides some comprehensive randomization so that students can take questions and tests multiple times, but not get the same exact question. So they just can't jot down the answers before the next time, but they're getting differentiated versions of the test based on this comprehensive randomization available through dynamic parameters. And then we have student groups. So throughout Edulastic, you have an opportunity as a teacher in Edulastic Premium to add specific students to a student group. So in this case, I'm on the single assessment report, and I'm looking at a distribution of scores on a 13-point test. And I notice some of these students are in the below basic category. And so maybe I want to select these students and add them to a student group to give those students additional practice. So that's something that you can do within Edulastic. So I think that's really something that was requested for a long time. And when we finally delivered, I think it really met a great need for you. So in addition to flexibility, and you could tell that there's a lot going on in flexibility there, there's also enhanced security features within an Edulastic Premium subscription. And first and foremost, there's the ability to shuffle the question order and answer choices within Edulastic. For those of you who are familiar with the free version, you might say, well, you know, things are shuffled like in the resequence type question, but they're not shuffled for multiple choice, multiple select, and things of that nature. So the ability to shuffle the distractors within a question and those answer choices, and the ability to shuffle the question order, sorry, I kind of was pointing to the wrong thing, but when you shuffle the question order, it gives you a lot more security as far as preventing cheating. And then there's also some security student post-test visibility options available. So you can determine how you're releasing the scores. Those of you familiar with the free version will know that it's kind of all or nothing. So you can either not show students anything after the test, or you can show students everything after the test, including their scores, their responses, and correct answers. So these two are in the free version, but we can get a little more nuanced and have a little more control in the premium version, where we can just release scores only, or we can release scores and student responses. So, you know, if you wanted to let students know how they did, but you didn't want to show them the questions again, I consider that, and you know, releasing scores kind of allows you to achieve that, but still have the security that you want in not having those questions go out for students to see again. And then you can restrict the question navigation within an assessment. So this is ideal when you're shuffling the order of questions, and then you're having it so students can't go backwards, and you know, they can't really match up the answers and work together, which of course prevents cheating and allows for a more secure assessment environment. And then there's the option to complete the test in one sitting. So if you want to just rest assured that the students, they can't leave the test without submitting and completing the test, you can do that as well. So students aren't jumping onto the test later, you know, not in the classroom, if the test is still open, to answer things on the side. You can make sure that this is all happening in class. And then there's the option to require a password before students take the test, just to make sure the students are in the class and et cetera. So for example, there's two ways to do it. There's the static password. So a static password might be Edulastic123. Sounds like a terrible password, but static password Edulastic123, maybe that's the password for all 5 of your classes. Dynamic, Edulastic will create a number. It's, I think, 6 or 7 digits. I can't quite remember. I think 6 digits. And it'll automatically create that number just before the test starts. And then you can determine, okay, well, we're going to go dynamic password because we really want every class to have its own password. And then we can determine, how long the students have to enter that password before being locked out of the test. And so you can also restrict navigation in Edulastic. This is kind of like a browser lock, but in many ways, I would say it's better, and I'll explain why. So restricting navigation allows a student, just before they're taking the test, it tells them that they need to take the test in full screen mode. And then when you enter the test, you're entering the test in full screen mode as a student, which of course prevents the student from going to another browser window and going to Google to find the answer. So when this navigation has been restricted on the teacher side, you'll start seeing indicators that, Kelly Bay has left full screen mode, and we can click on this little yellow icon here to see what's gone on. So the student has navigated out of the test 2 times. And as a teacher, you can determine how many times the student is allowed to navigate outside of the test and for how many seconds. As a student, you first get a warning, at least in this case, because in the example that I created, I allowed the student to leave 3 times. But you can see that the student is warned that the teacher has been notified that I've left the testing environment. It's time to get back into full screen mode. And then finally, the test, after 3 times in this case, the test has been locked for security reasons. So please contact your teacher to reopen your test. And it's very easy for the teacher to reopen the test in the live class board in the actions area. And then there's also, and I consider this, I was kind of thinking, is this flexibility or is this security? And I ended up landing on security for this, a timed test. I think having a timed test that'll time out, for example, in 40 minutes, doesn't become a research project. Students can't, and I'm thinking distance learning, they can't just grab a book or something. They really have to know the answers. Let's say it's 15 minutes or something. And then you can determine whether you want to allow students to save and continue later, or once the test starts, that's all they have left. It's just going to count down no matter what. So you can determine how that works for the student. Meanwhile, on the student side, they're able to see this timer, letting them know how much time they have left on this timed assessment. And so then the third and final area of Edulastic Premium is reports. And I'll go into some of the reports. And as I mentioned, I'll show you a live walkthrough of one of the reports within Edulastic Premium from a teacher's standpoint. So in the reports area, first thing you'll notice in your account is there's a grade book that's available. So that's nice. It's a nice quick view of how things are going in your class. And there's also an Express Grader report within the live class board. So from the live class board, you move over to the Express Grader, and you can see sort of a quick snapshot on how students did. You can see here there's view mode, and there's also score entry and response entry. If we go to score entry, for example, you can start clicking in. You'll see blue represents the spaces that we still need to fill in, but you can provide point values here. Or if you wanted to put in responses, you can also move there. I don't think I have a screenshot for that, but that's great for classic question types and things of that nature. Of course, you can't really enter in a response for a drag and drop question or anything that sophisticated, but you can for classic question types like multiple selection or multiple choice or something like that. And then there's another report that's kind of available from that live class board, which is a standard performance report. And if you know anything about Edulastic, you know this is kind of where standards mastery reports begin, and we go into a lot more detail in other reports. In fact, in the premium level reports, the free version does have a report in it that's a standards mastery aggregate view for mastery across the academic year. So that's definitely the next step on that. And then there's a student report card option. So from here, you can go ahead and determine what will be on this report card that you generate. You can generate the report cards and you have a nice preview of what it looks like before you can print these out for students. So students have access to these standards-based report cards. This is Common Core standards for those of you who are wondering what those are. So anyway, this is something that I could share with students as a teacher. So the next slide talks about insights. So this is an area that you may have seen in your free account, and you might notice, before you had premium access, that there's kind of this orange thing saying this is a premium feature and things of that nature, with the exception of this one view, which is the standards gradebook that I just talked about a minute ago. So in the insights area, you have access to 4 main reports. And the first report is called a single assessment report. It's a deep dive into every single assessment, which includes question level analysis. You're able to find common mistakes and things of that nature. The next report is a multiple assessment report. So we can see progress across time. Perhaps this is a pre and post test, or in this case, we're looking at 3 tests. Maybe they're evaluating similar standards. So we could really look at how these students are performing over time. We can click on, which students are trending upwards, or where their performance is flat, or where there may be an issue to work on them. And again, we were talking about student groups before. If I'm noticing 9 students are performing worse on the post test, we might want to, click on those students, add them to a group. And again, there's many ways you can add groups, and that's another way. And then there's the standards mastery report. Some of you might be very familiar with this view from the free version. Some of you may, in the premium version, have gotten to that very next view, which is if I click on a specific standard here, I can see progress on a single standard for my classes, all my students, as the standards first introduced. So this was fresh in students' minds. They did excellent on this, but look, they really got rusty on the winter test when they were reintroduced to that standard. They didn't do too well. So then we tried to formalize an initiative to at least give them additional practice on some of those standards that they missed. So then for the next couple times that the student took it, we saw some improvement. Nothing like that first time, but at least we made some improvement based on this immediate data that we saw. And then we have a student profile report. So in this case, this is Brooklyn Jones here, and we can see progress for her. We can see domain level performance. We can see standards level performance. By the way, my daughter created some of these students, drew them. And so anyway, it gives us the ability to look at specific standards. Has she mastered them? Has she not? This is a great report in talking with the student, talking with parents. I've heard that it's a great report for talking with parents that think a student should be more in a gifted strand, and why isn't the student in the more advanced course? Well, you can talk about it. You can, rather than an emotionally heightened conversation, you could have a data-driven and data-rich constructive conversation around views like these. You can even click down into all the attempts of the student on everything. So you can see domain level mastery, standards level mastery, and performance. And so for next steps, I'll jump into a live demo in just a second. But before I do so, I do want to encourage you all after this, if you're liking what you're hearing about Teacher Premium, definitely explore those premium accounts you have, or you can go to resources and see webinars, and there's a lot of great teacher training resources available just by going to edulastic.com, clicking on resources. That leads you to the teacher training hub, and that's where you'll see everything. And then my second favorite resource for Edulastic is YouTube. If you have specific Edulastic questions as you're using it, what I do sometimes is I just Google the Edulastic question I have. And believe it or not, I'm here in the Edulastic team, I do that sometimes. And that'll get me to exactly where I want to be, which is a knowledge-based article written by our customer success team with really very thoughtful, well laid out and clear descriptions of a lot of different features and what they do and things of that nature. So anyway, I'm just going to jump into the single assessment report. I think we still have a little time to show that. Again, here I am in the insights area of a premium teacher account. And I see these 4 reports that I just kind of highlighted in the slides. Here I am, and I'm going to go into last year's data, and I just happen to have this fall benchmark that has some good data in it. So here I am as this teacher in the single assessment report, and I can see this comparison of the different classes that I have. And here's total assigned, 26 across 3 classes. Well, that's actually just I just didn't want to do too much data entry for my demo accounts more than that. But you can see conveniently there is 0 students absent. You can see the average point score and average percentage score and a performance band distribution here. So if we're moving from the summary, if we have a little more time, we can go ahead and click on the student group, and the subgroups will show comparative data. And this is something different. And I keep talking about the free version, but I like to compare premium to free. On the free version, we'll show you the live class board for a single class taking a test. But in this case, with the premium, you can see data across in this case, all 3 of my classes where I'm teaching this 8th grade math subject in this case. So I can analyze things by score or raw score, proficiency bands, etc. I can also go ahead and compare by, free and reduced lunch status. By the way, this line equals the average. So look at these free and reduced lunch students, they're underperforming compared to their peers. So maybe I want to give them some additional practice. Or ELL, I can see how they're performing, as well as IEP, et cetera. So we have all this good performative data to make sure that I'm narrowing those achievement gaps to the best of my ability. And then question level analysis will show, well, which questions are my students struggling with? And for example, question 3 was the most difficult. Where do I really want to spend some time on that? Well, period 5, they really didn't do that well. Maybe I'll touch on it in period 2 during our review time on Friday. But for period 5, I'm going to spend a lot more time just because they really did not do well in this for some reason. So anyway, I have this real-time data, and I really think it equates to time savings and really good effective time management, because we know how busy educators are and how important saving time is. So I think Edulastic really helps provide focus and visibility so that you're focusing exactly where you need to. And then here's this response frequency view, so we can see how they do on these specific question types. Are there any question types that they just need practice on? In this case, I wouldn't say so. And we can look at this difficulty threshold. Well, here's question 3 again, causing all sorts of trouble. This is the standards it's associated with. And here we can see a common mistake that got over 40% of the responses. So you saw it kind of shade in there when I went over 40. And you can see that 42% of the students missed it due to distractor C. And you could see B and D weren't really the problem. A was the correct answer. So what was C exactly? So we can click here and take a quick look and see, well, here's the correct answer and here's the incorrect answer. So yeah, they just didn't understand that it was -6 there. So anyway, the great thing about these reports is you know what to focus on, which is question 3, but also how to focus on it, which is, you need to really make sure that they're not confused by distractor C. So of course, you're all the educational experts, not me, but we try to give you all the visibility and the tools so that you can really get to the heart of the misunderstanding and really help out these students in real time as these reports come in. So then we have a standards-based report here. So we can see, and this is similar to the standards-based report you may have seen in the standards mastery report that's also in the insights area. This is different because it's specific to this test only. So I really like these views. Wherever you're clicking down below, lights up here, lights up, and then you can see it down below, which I think is just really easy to navigate and really it's easy to interpret what I'm looking at. And I think that's key. I tend to click around Edulastic without even thinking about what I'm doing. And I think that really speaks to the user experience and just how well it's designed from a navigational and visual standpoint. So anyway, here we are in this student score distribution. You may have remember this when I was talking about student groups. Well, this is how we might want to do this. So here we'll look at those below basic students, and maybe we want to go ahead and we can go ahead and add them to a group, and we can select a group that already exists or create a new group from scratch or something like that. So anyway, that's a little bit on the insights. I think a lot of times in my imagination, and you can tell me if I'm right or not, I think a lot of times people will upgrade for text to speech or upgrade for shuffling the question order. But I think a lot of this power can come from the reports and how much time it can save, how much more efficient things can be from an instructional standpoint as far as informing learning and teaching. So anyway, I'll stop here. That's a quick overview of the most popular features in Edulastic Premium, and would love to answer some questions and look forward to hearing what those questions might be.
Thanks, John. That was a great overview of Premium. Before we jump into questions, I just want to go through a few slides and share some additional Edulastic resources. So first of all, whether you're doing remote learning right now or you're doing hybrid learning, our Edulastic Distance Learning Hub is a great place to start to get some additional resources. We have powerful tools to create online lessons, how to use Edulastic for distance learning, pre-made and ready to assign assessments and lessons, how to create and deliver online lessons, and more. Some additional resources, we'll also put some links into the chat as well that we encourage you to check out. It's a teacher training hub. I know John pointed this out as well. This includes live and on-demand training, swag requests, and more. You can also join our Facebook community to have the chance to chat with other educators using Edulastic. And the Help Center is a great place to stop by with any questions you have. Type in any question you have or a topic you have, and there's multiple articles, step-by-step guides, video tutorials, and more to help you resolve your question. And last but not least, our Edulastic blog for assessment best practices, featured assessments, events, and so much more. We're constantly adding resources about Edulastic, about common education topics and popular themes. So feel free to check that out as well. And now we're going to hop into our Q&A section of the event. I know some of you might have to hop off, so we just wanted to say thank you for joining us this afternoon, this evening, depending on where you're joining us from. And once you exit this presentation, you will also be prompted with a survey to fill out. It's a quick 3 to 4 question survey. We encourage you to fill it out to give us feedback on today's presentation, as well as ideas for upcoming webinars. So your feedback is super valuable to us, and we really hope that you take the time to provide it to us so that we can improve and grow as an organization as well to best help you and meet your needs. So now I'm going to open it up to questions. John, can you talk a little bit about regrading a question?
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen here. Actually, Bill, do you want to speak to it a little bit?
Go back to the assignments page.
Okay.
Go to actions.
And for regrading, so we'll pick something that's completed, right?
Yeah, if it's done, you're not going to be doing editing and regrading. Let's see. You should have an editing. Yeah, see where it says edit test.
Edit test. Perfect.
And you can fix the assignment there. There's also it's been a while since I've actually looked at this. There's also a way from Live Class Board where you can go in and do an edit and regrade from Express Grader.
Another question that came up, Bill and I answered it in the Q&A box, but I think beneficial for everyone else. Can you discuss Snap Quiz? I know it's not necessarily just a premium feature and it's available for free subscribers as well. I think it's a very valuable resource to discuss. Yeah,
absolutely. So let me build it out for you. So here I am in creating a new test. And here's the Snap Quiz option that you just mentioned. By the way, there's 3 ways to build a test in Edulastic. You can build a test from scratch by, that'll put you in the item bank, and then you can author items. By the way, you have the ability to author using any of the 51 question types, even in the free version, if you can believe it. And then you can also create a test from the test library where you have a test that's already been completed, and you should search out your state test, see if there's any examples of those in the library. Those are always good. For those of you who teach math, Jeffrey Fett has some great content. There's great Engage New York content, but you can select a test from the test library, and then you can reorder questions, delete questions, add questions, author questions, duplicate, and make your own versions of questions. There's just a lot that you can do there. But thirdly, and finally, to get to the point, right, is Snap Quiz, where you can create an Edulastic test by uploading a PDF. So this is a great sort of stopgap, sort of, great bridge from what you might be doing now to what you may plan to do in Edulastic. And there's some good aspects to it and not great aspects, and I'll kind of explain what I mean. So we'll go ahead and upload the PDF. And so let's go ahead and find a PDF test and add it to Edulastic. And so we're just going to call this test PDF test. And by the way, if you're not wild about these stock images, you can upload personalized images, pictures of the class, anything relevant to the subject, etc. So that's always good. And then we'll go to this worksheet, and then here is the PDF. So this is great because, even though Edulastic, it's easy to author natively within the Edulastic environment, you might think, well, I'm new to Edulastic. I really liked what John said about the reports, but I don't necessarily want to author everything right now. It's the middle of the year. So yeah, very fair point. And so what can we do in the meantime? I mentioned there's limitations. The main limitation, in my opinion, is that it's less tech enhanced. There's 6 question types here that you can choose from, as well as it's limited as far as some of the additional features, such as there's not an opportunity to have Scratchpad as students are responding to questions and things like that. But for example, if you wanted to add question 1 as a multiple choice, you can do that. Of course, Edulastic as a PDF, the Edulastic system doesn't understand what it's looking at. It sees an image. So you can let Edulastic know what exactly question 1 is and what the answer would be. So we can go ahead and add that. And then question 2, again, it's in this case, it's a multiple choice, but let's pretend it's a text entry. And let's say the correct answer is Edulastic. So we can allow for any text containing Edulastic, maybe that's fine. Maybe we want to match the uppercase and things of that nature, so you can go ahead and do that. And then maybe the next one's a drop down that we want to do, or a math question, or perhaps a true and false question, or let's just end with an essay question, for example. So in this case, since it's an essay, there's more work involved in this. So I want to measure it by providing 5 points, and I think we're good to go there. So then we can go ahead and review this test. What does it look like from a student standpoint? And we'll go ahead and get some of it right and some of it wrong. And there's my sample essay. And we can kind of see what that looks like. Let's check the answers. You can do that down below. And you can see I got something wrong, right, and to be determined within the manual grading of this essay. So I like this test. We built it exactly the way we wanted to. It was a very straightforward process and saved me a lot of time. I created an answer key. The only thing I haven't created yet is attaching some standards, and I can go ahead and do that if I want to. There's also some advanced settings as far as, within Edulastic Premium that you can set. And I should mention one thing that I really love about this new version of Edulastic with some of these enhancements is, if you wanted to change, you're always going to release the scores. You're always going to, partial credit's always going to be, penalizing for incorrect selections, not penalizing for incorrect selections. Let's say you're always going to have the graphing calculator. You're always going to have a specific password or whatever the case may be. Here's where you can, warn report after 3 times or maximum of 15 seconds, et cetera. So the good news is you don't have to set this up every single time. You can actually save it as a default setting. So maybe you have a Friday quiz setting, and then maybe you have a bell ringer type setting or whatever the case may be. You can go ahead and save those so they're configured each and every time without you having to go through and read everything again. So I think they're really good in how they design things for ease of use in that way. So anyway, that's a little bit on the PDF test called Snap Quiz.
Thanks, John. That was a great overview.
Great, thanks.
Trying to see what other questions are coming up. I feel like there's not many coming into the chat tonight. Deanna wants to know where the metadata tab is in Snap Quiz.
Oh, where the metadata tab is in Snap Quiz. So here we are in the worksheet. Here's the review page. I think there used to be, Bill, wasn't there used to be where you could attach the standards in the next view, right?
Look in your description.
You mean in the settings?
Well, no, in that go to the first tab.
Oh, okay, description.
And yeah, go there.
Oh, go to worksheet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, okay, this is what they did. So the reason why both Bill and I are wondering is because they recently changed this.
Yeah.
Which those of you who know Edulastic know that they're constantly upgrading. Where I did notice it before was on the question area. So of course I forgot, and now I needed to think about it. And yes, now it's at the question level. For those of you, so this is the last time I did a Snap Quiz test. There was a third metadata tab. Whoever asked the question probably was familiar with that as well. But now you have the option to add the standard at the question level, and this is where it is.
Yeah, it used to be test level only, and they upgraded it, and then we lost it. So yep, there it is. Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Thanks for the clarification there. When you're doing the express grades, can you change the express grades into an Excel spreadsheet?
Can you the express grader into an Excel spreadsheet? Like, you mean as far as exporting it?
That would be my understanding.
Okay, let me take a look at that. So let's go to the live class board. Let's go to something that's completed first of all. So let me jump to, let me get out of this demo class. And assignments, darn. Okay, yeah, here, let me go to period 1. And so, yeah, let's go to this one. Let's look at the express grader. So can we export into a CSV? I think is the question. Yeah, no, I don't think you can. Although you can, there's things that you can do from the live class board as far as an export that might do the same thing. And I hope I'm answering the question as it was intended. You can download grades and download responses from here. So that will go into a CSV file very similar to what appears in the Express Grader. So you may, if you're wanting to download into a CSV, you may not just need to do it from the Express Grader. You just find it from this more actions area within the live class board view. These are some good questions.
Feel free to type any other questions you have into the Q&A box, and we'll have some time to address them. Roy says thank you for looking into the CSV files for him.
Yeah, my pleasure. And
Bill, did you see any other questions come in? Oh, sorry.
We, and those of you who use
no.
Google Classroom, we do a grade push into the Google Classroom gradebook. And those of you who are part of an enterprise subscription, you know, there's also other ways that we push grades out as well into other systems. For example, we push grades out into Schoology, and we push grades out into Canvas, and I may be missing one, maybe not, I'm not sure. But those two, we also export grades directly into external systems as part of, in all those cases, there's a 4-point integration. And what I mean by that is the first point is rostering and roster syncing and updates. The second point is assessment sharing. The third point is single sign-on access from the student. And the fourth point is grade export from Edulastic into that external gradebook. So there are a few of our integrations have that, namely Google Classroom and Schoology and Canvas have that.
Another question came in regarding how do you create a test based on the standards that they're assessing?
Oh, how do you create a test based on specific standards?
Yes.
So I would go to the item bank, and I don't know if there's anything specific that they'd like to see, but what I'll do, maybe just for time, I'll just go into 7th grade. I'll go into math, and I'll go into math Common Core. And then if I want to look at specific domains and standards, I can do that here. So here's the domains. And this is the entire domain. I don't need to cover all that, but really these standards are what we're looking to assess. And actually one review standard. So we're going to go ahead and from the last domain. So we're going to go ahead and apply. And now I have 8,120 questions associated with these items, and they're sorted by popularity. So you'll see Edulastic certified items. Jeffrey Fett, you heard me mention him before. You have Jeffrey Fett again. I'm sure there'll be some Engage New York in here. And then you have teachers that have shared their own questions, and educators from across the Edulastic community. And while our content team hasn't formally vetted them, the community has really given their thumbs up by using, for example, this question's been used over 16,000 times since I think it was reset. Those numbers were reset in September of 2020, if I'm not mistaken. So anyway, you can sort by popularity, recency, etc. So let's say you're going to a conference, let's imagine post-COVID or something. You're at a conference, or maybe it's a virtual conference or whatever, and somebody's demoing Edulastic, and they're from the district right near you, and they've created some great items and they've shared them publicly. Well, that's not a certified author, but you can actually search them out by their name and find their content and use that content. And maybe not too many people have figured out how good that content is yet, and you can start using it. So there's both these public sources as well as certified sources, which are sources that our content team, they know the authors, they know and trust these authors, and our certified content has gone through audits and things of that nature. So in this case, it's an exact 1,000 questions for these 7th grade math Common Core standards that are from certified or official sources. The #1 certified question here is from Jeffrey Fett again. He wins again. So hopefully that was helpful. And then once you've selected some items, then you can go ahead and create a test with those items. You can see how creative I am today. I'm just going to call it test. And then we can continue to add items if we want. We can also create new items from scratch, something I haven't shown yet, which is, you have the choice of these. There's 10 question categories, and you have 51 total questions. And you can just click into them and start authoring with these different questions and attach them to the standards that you're looking for. In addition, there's also instructional pages that don't even have to do with questions. You can just have a video on a page or some exposition, some text, and you can include that as part of the test. So that's something you can also add.
For the description tab, when you're creating an assessment, there's no internal clip art library that Edulastic offers, correct?
There is not, but it's very easy to, I'm constantly, when I'm creating questions in Edulastic, I can do a screen grab and then just pull that in. There's a lot of ways you can just pull in images, and that goes with text too. You can copy and paste a lot of text into Edulastic, including text from other country or, other languages. There's just a lot of flexibility there, which is nice. but no, there's no, set library of, we have a library of questions, which is great, but we don't have a library of resources per se. But within the playlists and Spark Math and everything, you can actually create links to resources. Like, so for example, if there's a YouTube video or Khan Academy video, you can have that be part of the playlist in adding sort of a video resource that's pulling information from another site outside of Edulastic. So what other questions might there be? Last question.
Jen, I'll let you answer this one. If the student is accessing a video within a question, does that count as a student navigating out of the test to view the video?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it should. That should not be a problem because you do not have to leave full screen mode to access a video within a question.
Right, the video is embedded, so as long as they don't leave the page, they're good to go.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very thoughtful question too. And yeah, you don't need to leave the page in that case. Yeah, in the restrict navigation, we also have Safe Exam Browser as far as the browser lock goes. I don't know if I had that in the premium slides actually, but that should have been there. There's Safe Exam Browser. But I think this restrict navigation mode is great because then you don't have to install a browser lock and deal with some of those things. And you really have a lot of control over, to what extent you want to give students flexibility, if any at all.
Well, thanks so much, John and Bill, for this wonderful presentation, for helping in the chat and the Q&A section today. I really appreciate your help, and we really appreciate everyone joining us this evening, this afternoon, whatever time it is by you. We appreciate all that you do, and feel free to reach out with any questions you have in the future and access our help center for answers to frequently asked questions. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much for joining us.
Great. Yeah, thank you, everybody. Really appreciate your time and all the great questions.